the vocabulary that's on the GMAS, what it is, and how to use it. So let's first of all cover what the Georgia Milestones is. The Georgia Milestones is a test that is given every April. It is given to 3rd through 5th graders here at Waddell, and it has a lot of stuff on it. It has reading, it has grammar, it has writing, it has math, and it asks questions in a hard way. So you need to know some words that that will be tested on the GMAS. So first of all, let's talk about some of those words, and we'll get into it later as we progress. So the first word is literary text or narratives. That just means stories like, Goldilocks and the Three Bears, or Little Red Riding Hood, or, the Tortoise and the Hare. Those are stories. A literary text, when you write it, it develops a real or imagined experience. It includes a situation and introduces a narrator or characters. It has events in order. It uses words and phrases to show the sequence of events. It uses dialogue. This is really important, where characters talk to each other. They have actions, thoughts, and feelings in the story, which change. They respond to situations. They have a conclusion, a beginning, middle, and end. And when you write, you have to use ideas from a passage. You respond to the passage. So you'll read narrative text and you'll write narrative text as well on the GMAS. And always when you write, you use good grammar, and good writers use good grammar when they write. All right. Explicit means to say what you mean without thinking about it too much. Sometimes when you read something, you might have words that are, in the text, such as, what is the main character's name, or where did the main character go? And sometimes you have to think about the text. Why did the main character become sad? What does it say about the main character that he stole his friend's money? And you have to use your thinking to make an inference to consider what is happening in the story. Fables are stories that teach us a lesson about animals, like the tortoise and the hare, or as pictured here, the lion and the mouse. A folk tale is a story that's passed down from family to family, like Stone Soup, or as pictured here, Jack and the Beanstalk. These are folk tales. Folk means people, so a tale from people to people. A myth is a story that people use to explain things in nature, such as the wind and the sun. People a long time ago explained things that they didn't understand by telling stories, and these stories are very good ways to think about how people act. And sometimes people don't get along, and sometimes in these stories nature doesn't get along, but they help us understand why certain events occur in the mythological sense. Now, vocabulary is a huge part of the Georgia Milestones. So I'm going to go over how you figure out what different words mean. When you use a word, it's not about knowing words. There are thousands and millions and billions of words out there that you could know, but the GMAS is not a test of how many words you know. It's a test of if you can figure out new words based on how they're used in the sentence. So you use what's called context clues. So let's use the example pictured here. So it says, Mr. Fry is an affable principal. Now that's a word I had never heard as a 3rd grader. So he is pleasantly easy to approach and always friendly. So there are clues around the word affable that show what affable might mean. All right. So A synonym for affable, Mr. Fry is quite affable. In fact, he reminds me of Miss Baker. Do you remember how kind she was? So you see, affable might mean kind. An antonym means opposite. Now, synonym means the same name. Antonym means opposite, so not the same name. So the opposite is not something. I miss Mr. Fry. Our new principal is cranky and unapproachable. Mr. Fry was so affable. So our new principal is the opposite of Mr. Fry. Mr. Fry was so kind, and I'm guessing the new principal is not. He is the opposite of that. The antonym, all right? An example helps you understand new words. Mr. Fry is an affable principal. He knows everybody's name. If you have a problem, just talk to him. And an inference, which is when you, as I said before, when you use your brain to kind of figure out something you don't know, it's not all mentioned directly in the text. You don't need to worry about talking to Mr. Fry. He is an affable principal. See, I know from the example of him being an affable principal that, I don't really need to worry about that. I can just go up and talk to him since I know he's affable. He is kind. He is approachable. All right, here's a big one. This is definitely going to be on the GMAS. Central message. That means the theme. The theme, lesson, moral, message, they all mean the same thing. And what that is what you or the character in the story learns by the end. It's the lesson the author wants you to learn in a few words, like don't be greedy, don't be lazy, don't take your friend's lunch money, work together, be a good friend, help each other. The theme is at the end of the story when characters learn these lessons, and the characters often change in a way that shows their growth or development throughout the story. They were one way at the beginning of the story, but they learned a lesson and now they're some other kind of way. So they're really changing throughout the story. And third grade stories almost always have a positive moral message, a positive theme, a positive lesson for the characters to learn. To recount a story means to tell the story again in your own words, or you could also write a summary which gives parts from the beginning, middle, and end shortly. You don't have to tell the whole story, but if you were to give a good summary, you might say, at the beginning, there were three little pigs. There was also a big bad wolf who wanted to blow their house down. The first pig went into the straw house. The wolf huffed and puffed and he blew the straw house down. So the first pig ran into his brother's house. Then the big bad wolf huffed and puffed and he blew his brother's stick house down, and the two brothers ran into their third brother's house. That house was made of brick. He huffed, that big bad wolf huffed and puffed, and he could not blow the brick house down, so the hunter caught the wolf. And so that is a summary. It doesn't tell everything. I could do a lot better in telling that story, but it tells the most important parts of it. So the reader gets an understanding that I did read the story. And when you respond in a summary, you can give the most important parts of the story. Not everything, but what is most important. A setting is where and when the story happens. In a castle, a long time ago, in the forest, at my house, at my friend's house, at the beach, in the future, in the past, right now. Those are all settings where and when a story takes place. A plot is what happens in the story. It's also called the events at the beginning, the middle, the end. You know, a good story, it is not just characters talking, it's what happens to those characters, and that is the plot. A plot moves along and it helps the characters do things, and it changes how they feel about their life. That's how you learn from them, and that's how they learn from each other. All right. A character is the person or animal in the story. Characters also have traits and also change in the story. Now, examples of a character would be a character might be tall, young, thin, tiny, round, or old. But those are just physical traits, how a character looks on the outside. Remember, it's what's inside that counts. So a personality trait might be a character is daring, brave, caring, selfish, angry, happy. They might feel a whole different kind of way than a different character. So characters might argue or they might learn to get along based on their character traits, and those character traits define what they're going to do and how they're going to act in a story. A sequence means the beginning, middle, and end of the story. When you make a sequence, which you're going to do on the Georgia Milestones probably, you tell what happens in order. You can't have the end before the beginning, and you can't have the beginning after the end. That doesn't make sense. You have to have first, then, next, and last. Those are the points of the sequence. Okay, so similes and metaphors, those are called non-literal language, or what we call figurative language. Now, a simile uses the words like or as to compare two different things. This is called figurative language, such as, he was as quick as a cheetah. The building was as tall as a mountain. The little girl jumped up like a spring. Now, there's no cheetah, there's no mountain, there's no spring, but you're comparing things and making the reader think, okay, that's interesting. Now I know how much that person can run, or I know how tall that building is, or I know how high that little girl jumped up. A metaphor is when you call something else by, like my mom is a rock star, or she is an angel, or the washing machine was a hungry bear. Similarly, there's no rock star, there's no angel, there's no hungry bear, but you get an idea in your head. Figurative language is all about ideas and expressing yourself through language. You often find figurative language in poetry and also in stories when characters are talking about something that they really feel strongly about. My friend was as wise as an owl. That means they're very smart. So you see, there's no owl there, but you have a feeling that is expressed through figurative language. A chapter is a section of a book. Chapter 1, plants. Chapter 2, photosynthesis. Chapter 3, animals. So each one of these chapters tells a bit about something. Chapter 1, Annie goes to the park. Chapter 2, Annie goes to the dentist. Chapter 3, Annie gets sick. Chapter 4, Annie gets better. So those chapters tell what either is the nonfiction story is about, or what the fictional story is about. They tell that they help you keep track of the story. In other words, it's really good to have chapters in a book, and you can look up those chapters at the beginning of the book in the glossary, and they'll tell you a little bit about what's going to happen there, or table of contents, excuse me. A scene is a section or a drama or play. Now, in a scene, different things happen. Now, the purpose of a drama or play is that characters act out and they have dialogue. They'll talk to each other, and different events occur based on what they say to each other. Mr. Jones enters the stage. He tells his friend, I don't feel very good about this. His friend replies, and so characters talk to each other in a scene and we act out. We actually did a play called Gigi and the Wishing Ring, in which different members of our class played characters in the story. So that is part of a play, which is a scene. A stanza is part of a poem. It's a section of a poem. I call it like the paragraph of a poem. When you put like 4 or 5 or however many lines together, it forms a stanza. Roses are red, violets are blue, sugar is sweet, and so are you. That would be one stanza of a poem. Poems can have any number of stanzas. Some poems are long and some poems are short, but they're always numbered. As a matter of fact, everything in the GMAS is numbered, and I'll show you that later so you can keep track, because they might ask you what different parts of a story tell you about that story. What does it say in section 1? What does it say in section 2? And each one is different. A point of view is who is telling the story and how they feel about it. If I say to you, I am Judy Moody, I am in a very bad mood, that is a first person point of view. But if I say, let me tell you everything I know about this girl named Judy Moody. Judy Moody is a girl who lives on a street in town. She has an annoying little brother. Then I'm a third person narrator who knows everybody in the story. So first person narrators use I, me, my to tell the story, and third person narrators use words like the characters' names. They know everyone in the story and everything they're doing. So first person and third person. Also, point of view can be how an author feels about a subject. For example, you should take care and protect ocean animals. There is far too much trash being dumped into the ocean. I feel that we should give money to people who help protect ocean animals. See, that's a point of view. That is an opinion or feeling about protecting ocean animals, and an author might feel that way, or they might like ice cream, or they might think you should have school uniforms. They might think we should start school later. They might think giving is better than receiving. You might give your point of view, or you might read someone else's point of view. You might agree or disagree depending on how you feel. A narrator is the person telling the story. Again, there are first and third person narrators. Sometimes the narrator is in the story, I, me, and my, and sometimes they are outside of the story, they, him, she, the girl, Judy Moody. When every character has a name, then you know that the narrator is outside the story because they know everybody. Nobody knows everybody. So you can tell that they're a third person narrator when they know everybody. A mood is the feeling the author creates. It was a dark and stormy night in a scary castle. Or it was the greatest day ever in Mr. Johnson's class. See, those are completely different moods that the author creates, and they want you to feel different ways based on their mood. Illustrations are pictures in the story. Pictures tell you about the story. If you see an illustration, you can see what's going on in the story. Sometimes they even put illustrations in nonfiction text, but they're just drawings. Illustrations means drawings, and they tell you more about what you're reading. Compare and contrast. You're definitely going to see this on the GMAS, how things in the text are the same and how they are different. Now you can only compare and contrast two things that are already similar. So Jane's hair is black. Susie's hair is blonde. You see what I'm comparing is hair. The alligator lives in the swamp. The black bear lives in the mountains. So I'm comparing where the animals live. Sometimes things are the same. Both the polar bear and the penguin live in cold places. Those animals are the same in the way that they live, in the place that they live. So compare and contrast just means how things are different and how they're the same. Contrast means different, compare means the same. To make a good comparison, you have to know what you're comparing. That's the key. Informational text or expository text gives facts and details. Let me tell you about the life cycle of a frog. Let me tell you about Amelia Earhart. Let me tell you about Martin Luther King Jr. Let me tell you about the planet Saturn. These are all true facts that happened in real life. As I said, explicit details in nonfiction text tell you exactly what you want to know, like the name or date of what happened in history. Now, the central idea, or what we call the main idea, is what the text is mainly about. Every nonfiction text has a main idea. The main idea is the most important thing the text is about. Key details support the main idea. You usually find the main idea in the first and last paragraph. A main idea is not just one word, it is a whole sentence that tells why the author is writing the text. For example, bears are animals that live in the mountain habitat of Georgia. They hibernate in the winter. Also, they use their fur to stay warm. They hunt for fish in the streams. Their adaptations make bears able to stay alive. So the main idea, bears are able to live in the mountains of Georgia because they use their adaptations to stay alive. You can see the first sentence and the last sentence get put together to form my main or central idea. You might see it called both, but this is about nonfiction text and what they are mainly about, the main idea. Key details support the main idea. The main idea is the big idea, the most important thing. Those key details go with it. If they don't go with it, they're not key details. So key details support the central idea. Martin Luther King Jr. was a famous civil rights leader. He gave many speeches. He fought for the rights of African Americans. He marched on Washington. These details support the main idea. To recount, you can tell the most important parts of a real text, tell what details you think are the most important facts and details, not just stories, but facts that tell you about a topic. Historical events are things that happened in the past. Famous wars, famous people. The Native Americans were in history. The European explorers who explored different places. The British colonies, such as the New England, Southern, and Mid-Atlantic colonies. Those are all historical events, things that really happened in the past, that happened before. And you can look those up on what's called a timeline. Just like a number line, it tells things from left to right, depending on what happened first. On the left, things happen first, and at the other end, they happen last. Scientific ideas are things that we have learned about the world, like about rocks and minerals. Science tells you a lot about how the world works, such as rocks and minerals, erosion, weathering, heat, how things work in the world. What do you wonder about? Scientific facts tell us about the world, and you can always learn more things about the world. So anyone can be a scientist because science is always changing. It's really cool. Technical procedures are how to do things like how to build a boat or how to bake a cake, how to make a sandwich. First, you get a plate. Next, you get some bread. Next, you spread your mayonnaise. Then you get some ham, get some cheese, add some lettuce. However you make your sandwich, I'm not judging, but those are technical procedures about how to do things. Chronological order is things that happen in order, in time order, first, then next, and last. So in 1983, I was born, and later other things happened. Maybe in 2015 or 2016, you were born. So these are chronological order. Things can happen at different times in real life. Chronological, chrono means time. Cause and effect is what happened and why it happened. It rained and I got an umbrella. Why did I get an umbrella? It rained. The cause always happens before the effect. First, I hurt my leg. Then I went to the doctor. So cause is I hurt my leg. Effect is I went to the doctor. Cause and effect. Okay. How the sun keeps us warm. The sun keeps us warm. It is cold. Okay. The sun keeps us warm. So the sun causes us to be warm. Or you could say the cause is we are cold. So we're glad the sun came out today. That keeps us warm. All right, text structures are how nonfiction texts are built. It's like a castle. So when you look at different stories, you can look at different nonfiction texts, and you can say, okay, dogs have a great sense of smell. They are, have good hearing. They can run very fast. They make excellent companions. Those are descriptions or examples. They have fur. They have teeth that can be very sharp. Sequence is when things happen. It's different. So first, I was born. Next, I was a child. Then I grew up and went to college. Last, I became a teacher. So those are all sequence words that tell us that you're reading something that happened in order. Compare and contrast is what it's like and how it's different. Just like I was telling you about the bear and the alligator. A cause and effect is what when something makes something else happen. That's the text structure. And problem and solution is a problem and the way to fix it. Okay. The two students were arguing. They came up with a plan to work together. So they had a problem, but they came up with a way to fix it. And these text structures will tell you about any story you're going to read in nonfiction. All right, text features are the different ways that nonfiction texts give you information. Look at these right here. First, we're going to talk about a photograph. A photograph is a picture that shows how something looks in real life. You see this? This is a photograph. A caption is words that describe a photograph. such as dolphins are intelligent ocean animals. That's a caption that tells about this picture. Captions are words that tell about the picture. Graphs are a visual way of showing two or more sets of data. You see this is a graph. This is the highest one. Like, for example, let's say if this is the number of people who like ice cream. So that would be the most. All right, a map tells you where something is located. You see, this is a map, I believe, of North and South America, if I'm not mistaken. This is a land that shows you where things are. A table or a chart tells you about an organized way to display data. So you see how people's favorite cookie, 7 girls like chocolate chip, 9 boys, 5 girls like sugar cookies and 2 boys, 3 girls like oatmeal and 1 boy, and no girls like raisin, but only 1 boy did. Okay. A diagram is a labeled drawing of a photograph. Diagram. You see how this diagram points arrows to the different parts of this squirrel, his tail, his ears, his feet, and his eyes. The table of contents, that's the word I didn't get right earlier. I said glossary, I meant table of contents. It's a list of chapter page numbers at the beginning of a book, all about tigers. Chapter 1 is going to tell you about the habitat. That's on page 4. Chapter 2, the diet. That's on page 6. Chapter 3 is the cubs, the baby cats. That's on page 8. An index is at the list of topics in the book arranged in ABC order at the back of a book. So if you see some interesting words, you can look them up and find out what page they're on. All about spiders. You want to know about arachnids? Look on page 2. About bites? Look on page 5. About body parts? Look on page 6. About diet? Look on page 8. And what about poisonous? Look on page 9. And different types, look on page 12, and webs, look on page 16. Now a heading, you're going to see a lot of this in the GMAS. A word or phrase that tells what the passage below it will be about. All about elephants. That's a big heading. But there's these subheadings. There's types of elephants. There's body parts. And those are additional information that tells you what you're going to read in that section. In this section, there's types of elephants, but in this section, there's body parts. So you'll know exactly what you're reading, and they're going to ask you about it. A glossary is a list of words and their definitions located at the end of a text. So like the word meanings, accumulation, condensation, evaporation, precipitation. These are big words. They're actually 4th grade cloud words, but these bolded words tell you what words you're going to read, and next to it, they tell you what it means. That's called a definition. Now, reference materials are different ways to look up information. A dictionary is a book of word meanings, like you can see what abandon and abandoned, an abbreviation. It always tells the part of speech, like abandon is a verb, okay? And it tells you what these different words mean, also with a bolded word. The words are organized in alphabetical order. There are guide words at the top of every page, and the guide words show the first and last word on the page. You see how these are in alphabetical order, like A, B, A, N, D, O, N, A, B, A, N, D, O, N, E, D, and then it keeps going, A, B, B, R, E, V, I, A, T, E. So those are in alphabetical order. Now, a thesaurus is a book of synonyms. Those are different words that mean almost the same thing. Here's some synonyms for smart. The words that are organized in an alphabetical order, and it can be used to help with word choice when writing. So agile, astute, bold, brainy, bright, quick, resourceful, sharp, shrewd, slick, genius, keen, knowing, pointed, ready. Those all mean smart. An encyclopedia is a book of information. This is something I had when I was a kid. We had encyclopedias, but now a lot of encyclopedias are on the internet. The words are organized in alphabetical order. Each letter typically has its own book, and there are guide words at the top of every page. Basically, an encyclopedia is a book of facts. These facts are about baseball. See how baseball is the American national sport? The game is played with a wooden bat and a hard ball by two teams of 9 players. The aim of baseball is to complete as many runs as possible. A run is a circuit of all 4 bases. The 3 main skills in baseball are, and it goes on from there. Okay, what we call PIE, persuade, inform, entertain. See, PIE, PIE. These are why the author wrote what they wrote. So did they try to change your point of view or make you do or think something? You should definitely take care of animals. We should have school uniforms. We should start school later. Students should have no homework. Those are all opinions, and the author is trying to persuade you. Whenever you see the word should or you must, or is trying to tell you to do something that they're passionate about, that they want you to do, that's a persuasive argument. They want you to do something. Persuade just means like you're asking your mom, can we get a dog? You're persuading your mom to get you a dog. Inform means something that's just factually true, just straight up facts. Frogs are amphibians. Martin Luther King Jr. was a civil rights leader. Those are facts. Those are true facts. Those are not opinions. Those are things that really happened in life. Entertain is a story. Did it try to make you laugh? Did it try to make you feel something? Entertainment means like you're reading a story such as Judy Moody. My name is Judy Moody, and I have such an annoying little brother. Let me tell you the crazy story about what happened to me today. So those are entertaining stories. Those are not true, but they make you happy or make you feel different ways. Entertainment. So persuade, inform, entertain. Those are what we call the author's purpose, the reason why they wrote it. Okay. Now, we already covered point of view. That's the author's opinion on a text, how they feel about it. They want you to think a certain way. They want you to agree. I think video games are a great way to teach kids school lessons. I think Kahoot is a great game for working with different math problems. So that is my opinion, my point of view. Fact and opinion. Fact is something that's true, and opinion is how you feel. Fact, I have a pencil. Opinion, it is the prettiest pencil in the world. So one of those things is true, and one of those is just how I feel about the pencil. Opinions can't be proven, but facts can. On the GMAS, you're going to have to write paragraphs. A paragraph uses an idea to connect more than one sentence. A beginning sentence tells the reader what the paragraph is about. You always capitalize the first word of a sentence. Capitalize proper nouns like James or Georgia. Supporting details or facts that let the reader know more about the topic or story. And a concluding sentence that lets the reader know it is time to end one paragraph and start another. All right. You definitely want to have what is called organization in your writing. When you write, you need to tell the reader what you're writing about. You need to support it, and you need to let the reader know when you're done with good grammar. Here is an example of a story. I wrote a story about, well, I should say, I'm sorry, I didn't write this. This actually came from our GMAS guide, and I want to show you what it looks like. This is based on an interview with someone who was a park ranger who took care of animals. Oh no, it looks like one of my cameras stopped working near the woods. See, this is based on his writing, and the person who wrote this actually used his writing. I grabbed my GPS, that's a vocabulary word, and got in my Jeep, another one. I started driving toward the hiking trail. I got there and got out of the Jeep. I grabbed my bag. I had a replacement camera, some trail mix, and a water bottle. See, those are facts that came from his interview, but the person put them in their story. It was a hot day. It was already, or I was already sweaty. I started walking down the trail. I saw some kids walking towards me. One of them looked really dirty. Everything all right? I asked. I had a first aid kit in my bag if they had gotten hurt. Just slipped in some mud, the one kid said. He looked embarrassed. This is called dialogue. Be safe, I said. You see, the characters are talking. You see how there's quotes around what they're saying? Then that's called a sequence word. Tells when things are happening. Then I continued to the broken camera. I set up the new one and put the old one in my bag. It only took a few minutes. More time work. Once I finished, more transition and time words. I took a big gulp of water from my water bottle. Then, more time words. I started hiking back to my Jeep. I spotted some birds and squirrels peeking at me from an evergreen tree on my way. I got to my Jeep and I started it. Then I drove down the dirt road. There was always more patrolling to do in the refuge. What a great ending of the story. It tells you something that is ending, but it also makes me want to read more if they had kept going. So that's a good, compelling ending to this story, and it tells kind of the spirit of what the person already read. On the GMAS, you're going to have to read something and then write a story based on it. That's exactly what this person did. All right, so what does a good informational writing look like? On the GMAS, you're going to have to do some kind of compare and contrast. Sometimes you'll read two nonfiction texts, and sometimes you'll read two stories. One may be fiction, one may be nonfiction. But let me give you an example of how they used the compare and contrast to tell how the skates in two different stories were different. This was a story about the history of roller skates and a story about someone's grandmother's roller skates. All right, so you can see here they have an introduction, details, transition words, conclusion, and they tell how things are different and the same. There are many differences between older roller skates and inline skates. For one thing, the wheels are in different places. See those transition words? Older roller skates had two wheels on the front and two near the heel. The wheels on inline skates have all the wheels lined up in a row. Their wheels are made of different kinds of materials. Amy's grandmother's skates had metal wheels. Roller skate wheels could also be made of wood or plastic. On the other hand, great transition word, that's a compare transition word. Inline skates all have soft plastic wheels. That is why inline skates aren't as bumpy as roller skates. They also aren't as loud. With the new rollers, or with the roller skates, it was harder to turn and harder to stop. With the older roller skate, it was harder to turn and harder to stop. So they're comparing those things using those transition words. All right, so here's another type of writing with opinion. Now, opinion means how you feel about something. You read two passages and you kind of pick one, tell which one you agree with and why, but you're using the text and your opinion. That's kind of hard. So you give your opinion, reasons, example, and you give support and text evidence from the text. I agree with the author of School Starts Too Early. I think school should start later in the day. The most important thing for a student to do well is to get a good night's sleep. The author says that people have studied the subject. What they found is that students who get up early don't sleep as much. You see how the person used the author's word, but they also use some of their own words. They do worse than students who get up later. Starting school later may cost money, but students will learn more. So the student here, you can see here that they're using the author's words again, but they're also kind of giving their own opinion and telling which one they agree with. Learning is the most important thing. I think good use of I think. Schools can find a way to pay for more buses. Also, good transition word. The author of Don't Change says getting up early means you will be successful. That's not always true. Sometimes it just means you will be more tired. For these reasons, I agree with the author of School Starts Too Early. Now, this is important. You see how they put the words in quotes? You have to put the name of the story that you're reading in quotes when you're writing about it. School really should start later in the day. Okay, that's a good conclusion. That tells what the person's opinion is. You're giving opinion, reading example, and a good, strong conclusion. All right, so that concludes our reading part. Now we're going to talk about grammar. Grammar is how we write, but there's lots of different kinds of writing. So I'm going to take a little bit of a break, get me something to drink, and then I'll be right back to talk about our friend's grammar. All right, so grammar is how we write. The first one I'm going to teach you is about capitalizing titles. Now, the first word of every title has a capital letter. Titles can be titles of books, titles of stories, titles of poems, titles of plays, titles of restaurants, anything that is important, anything that has a name can have a title. So for example, important words in titles are always capitalized. The Lord of the Rings, Burger King, Junie B. Jones has a birthday party, Frozen, the movie, and Roblox, the video game. But do you see how the words of the are not capitalized in Lord of the Rings? That's because they are not as important as the other words. So you have to find the words that are the most important and capitalize the first letter of them. If you are in doubt, look at the words and ask yourself, is this word important? And if it is, or if you think it is, it's probably a good idea to make the first letter a capital letter. Dialogue is when characters talk to each other in a story. You put quotation marks around everything that is being said. Jane said, I am hungry. I am hungry, Jane said. You see how there's quotation marks around I am hungry and in both? You can see these commas help you transition between this part of the sentence to the end, but you never put quotes around the person's name who's saying it. You only put quotes around what they're saying. Will you buy me a hot dog? Asked Sam. Max asked, why is there a fish in my bedroom? Cats don't dance, Reggie said unexpectedly. These are all examples of dialogue, characters talking in the story. Excuse me. All right, we've already covered similes and metaphors, so I won't do that one again. But remember, similes are using like or as to compare two things, and metaphors call something something else. Now, compound words join two different words to make a new word. Cupcake. Remember, it's a whole word with another whole word. Football, sunset, waterfall, billboard, daydream. You put two words together like sticky glue and make a compound word. Now, contractions put two words together, but an apostrophe replaces the missing letter. Was not becomes wasn't. Could not becomes couldn't. Did not becomes didn't. Would not becomes wouldn't. Were not becomes weren't. Was not becomes wasn't. I will becomes I'll. I am becomes I'm. They will becomes they'll. They are becomes there. And we are becomes we're. These are contractions. Remember, you put the two words together and an apostrophe replaces the missing letters. Synonyms are the words that mean about the same thing. We talked about those earlier. Hot and warm, big and giant, cold and frigid, angry and mad, happy and joyous, smart and intelligent. Those are synonyms. Antonyms mean opposites. Opposites are like not something. Two opposites cannot happen at the same time. That means you can be one or you can be the other, but you can't be both equally. So happy and sad are opposites. Cold and hot are opposites. Up and down are opposite. Fun and boring are opposite. Slow and fast are opposite. Wet and dry are opposites. Opposites means one thing, but not the other thing. One thing, but not the other thing. Sentences and fragments. All right, a sentence has a subject and a verb is part of the predicate. If it doesn't have both, it's not a sentence. Remember, the subject is the who, the predicate is what they do. The girl played in the park. Okay, the girl is the who, played in the park is what she is doing, but just played in the park, that's not a sentence. And just the girl, that's not a sentence either. You have to have both to make a whole sentence. Commands and exclamations. A command is also called an imperative sentence. Imperative sentence tells someone to do something. Please sit down. Go get my water. Clean your room. When someone tells you to do something, they're giving an imperative or command. Now, an exclamation shows excitement or anger. It's my birthday. This is my favorite toy. I am so mad right now. Those are exclamations. Those are different kinds of sentences that you can use besides just statements or questions. The subject is who or what the sentence is about. It is usually, but not always, the first word or words in the sentence. So it doesn't have to be the first words, but often in third grade, simple sentences it is. The man is walking to the park. Notice the green highlight. The man is the subject. The fish swam all day. The fish are the subject. My sister Jane, yes, all three words are the subject, is the best sister in the world. My mother and I, oh, now 4 words are the subject. Love to shop at the mall. It's everything before the verb is the subject. Carrots and potatoes are delicious vegetables. You see how the carrots and potatoes are the subject? Now, predicates tell what the subject is or does. I've made these red to show how they're different than the subject. They are after the subject most of the time. We play in the park. You see, after the subject, my sister cannot find her keys. After the subject, Jane and I have a secret. After the subject, the forks and the spoons are clean. After the subjects, I studied very hard for the test. Predicates tell what a subject is or what a subject does. They come after the subject most of the time. Predicates. All right. Singular nouns name one person, place, thing, or idea. Cat, girl, chair, and bridge. There's just one. A plural noun names more than one person, place, thing, or idea. You use SES or change the ending to make plurals. Foxes, women, cities, children, those are all more than one. There's 5 foxes. There's 6 women. There's 25 cities. There's 400 children. Those are all more than one. Those are plural. Irregular plurals have strange endings. They don't add S or ES. You change them in a different way. So more than one shelf are shelves. More than one man makes men. More than one person is people. More than one tooth is teeth, and more than one child is children. These are irregular plural nouns. They have weird endings. Collective nouns name groups of people, places, and things, such as team, band, herd, and mice. A group of players is a team. A group of people playing instruments is a band. A group of elephants is a herd, and more than one mouse is a bunch of mice. When you have sentences, you can combine them and make the sentence a little bit snappier by putting them together. Watch. Jane went to the park. Sarah went to the park. Jane and Sarah went to the park. That's called a compound subject. Mr. Fleming plays video games. Mr. Street plays video games. Mr. Fleming and Mr. Street play video games. I don't think he really does, but I do. So that's two people together makes a compound subject. Okay. Common and proper nouns. Now, a common noun is a general noun that doesn't have a name. If it's not at the beginning of a sentence, it begins with a lowercase letter. Boy, food, and school. You see the lowercase letter on boy, food, and school? Those are common nouns. Which boy? What food? What school? You don't know. That's why it's lowercase. Now, a proper noun is an important noun because it has a name and an uppercase letter. McDonald's, Barack Obama, Sally. These are the names of people, places, and things, and they always have a capital letter. Those are proper nouns. So common noun has a lowercase letter. Proper noun has an uppercase letter. Possessive nouns show who or what owns something. Use apostrophes to show ownership. Put the comma before the S if there is one, and after the S if there's more than one. This is Lisa's purse. You see apostrophe S? The girl's hair was beautiful. The frog's home was destroyed by a machine. Now notice this apostrophe is after the S because there's more than one frog. Whenever there's more than one of something and you want to show that they own something, you put the S and then you put the apostrophe after it. When you want to show that one person, place, or thing owns something, then you show the apostrophe S. But if there's more than one person, place, or thing, you do S apostrophe. Action verbs show what someone is doing. The girl ate a donut. Sam walks every day. We played football after school. My mother will cook us dinner. Those are action verbs. Someone or something is doing something. Subject verb agreement. Okay, so a present tense verb must agree with the verb in number. If the subject is just one, the verb has an S. The boy plays football. See the S? The man works at the store. Sam cooks spaghetti for his family. Those are words, verbs with S's on them. Now look at what happens if the subject is more than one, this verb doesn't have an S. The boys play football. The men work at the store. Sam and Max cook spaghetti for their family. You see how there's more than one boy, more than one man, and more than one boy in this sentence. So you have to take the S away because there's more than one and make play, work, and cook. That's called subject-verb agreement, making the subject and the verb agree in number. Past tense verb tell the action that has already happened. Past tense verbs often end in the suffix ed. We walked to the park. My sister bought a banana yesterday. My friends played Fortnite. The dogs ate their food. The chef cooked a steak. So you see these verbs have ed or some other ending that show that the action happened in the past. It already happened before. That's what past tense means. It already happened before. Future tense verb tells about something that will happen in the future. Future tense verbs often have will before the verb. We will eat a steak tomorrow. My brother will play football. Dogs will bark when you come home. So these use the will to tell about the future. Linking verbs connect the subject to a noun or an adjective with the predicate. She is beautiful. My mother was happy. I am a teacher. We were very hungry. My favorite animals are tigers. So these linking verbs allow the subject to connect to nouns or adjectives in the predicate. They will tell you more about it by using that linking verb. Linking verbs. Helping verbs helps the main verb show action. The main verb often has ing as the suffix. We are eating tacos. You see that are? It helps eating do its job. My sister was playing soccer. You see that it makes playing do its job. Ducks were swimming in the water. You see, were swimming in the water. And I am happy with my new house. See that am, it helps happy do its job. Helping verbs helps the main verb show action. So it often has ing as the suffix. All right, irregular verbs have a special spelling in the past tense. It does not end in ed. Drive becomes drove. Ride becomes rode. Make becomes made. See becomes saw. And come becomes came. Those are past tense verbs, but they're irregular past tense verbs, and they do not end in ed. Singular and plural pronouns. A pronoun is a special noun that replaces a specific person, place, or thing. Singular pronouns replace one person, place, or thing. She is playing in the park. He is happy. I am doing my homework. Those are singular, just one person pronouns. Plural pronouns replace more than one person, place, or thing. We are playing in the park. They are happy. Mrs. Tasby gave us some homework. So those are more than one person, place, or thing pronouns. They replace the noun. Subject and object pronouns. A subject pronoun is a special pronoun that tells who or what the sentence is about. He plays baseball with Tom. We ate a plate of shrimp. They could not find any games. He, we, and they are subject pronouns because they are doing the action. Okay? They are giving the action, I should say. An object pronoun is a special noun that tells who or what is receiving the action. James gave him a piece of candy. Dad took us to the game, and please go with them to the park. Those receive the action. You see where they are in the sentence? They're towards the middle, and with a subject pronoun, they're at the beginning. So subject pronouns give, object pronouns receive. Possessive pronouns are pronouns that show ownership. That is my pencil. That is our pencil sharpener. Their house is huge. Where is your homework? The table lost its leg. Those are possessive pronouns because they show that someone or something owns something else. Possessive pronouns. Adjectives are the words that describe nouns. The cheetah was very fast. That's an adjective. She is a pretty girl. I am very happy. There is a slow turtle. It is very cold weather. Those are adjectives and they all describe nouns. There's different kinds of adjectives, comparative and superlative adjectives. Comparative adjectives is a describing word that compares two places, things, or people. It often uses the subject er or more to compare. Joe is taller than Sally. My car is faster than yours, or Georgia is hotter than Alaska. A superlative adjective shows how one person, place, or thing is compared to all others, and it often uses est, the suffix est, or most. Joe is the tallest student in the class. My car is the fastest in the race. Arizona is the hottest state of all. Those are comparative and superlative est adjectives. Adverbs tell how a verb does something. They usually end in ly, but not always. We ran quickly to the store. The turtle walked slowly to the beach. He screamed loudly to his friend. We studied quietly for the test, or we arrived early in the morning. Those are adverbs. They show how the verb works. Conjunction is used to connect sentences or parts of sentences. And, or, and but are conjunctions. A coordinating conjunction combines two simple sentences. I enjoy soccer and I play baseball. I can play soccer or I can play baseball. I play soccer, but I do not play tennis. A subordinating conjunction combines a simple sentence and a dependent clause. Examples are although, because, and since. I pulled out my umbrella because it was raining. I went home since I had no money. You can use different conjunctions to combine parts of your sentences. Simple and compound sentences. A simple sentence expresses just one complete thought. The girl walked to the park. My brother wants me to buy him some candy. Fish swim where the water is best for them. Those are just one simple thought. But guess what happens when you put two sentences together? They make compound sentences. They join two sentences with a comma and a conjunction like and, or but. They call these fanboys, for, and, nor, but, yet, so. I can eat chocolate or I can eat vanilla. We swam in the ocean and we sailed on a boat. I can ride a bicycle, but I cannot drive a car. Those are compound sentences joined with coordinating conjunctions. Complex sentences combine an independent clause, a whole sentence, with a dependent clause, not always a whole sentence. That means one part of the sentence is a fragment, while the other tends to be a whole sentence. Before the storm, not a sentence. We have to get inside, that is a sentence. That is a complex sentence, and before is the subordinating conjunction. If you teach me to ride a bike, I will buy you some ice cream. If is the subordinating conjunction, and that is a complex sentence. Without an umbrella, you will get wet. Without is your subordinating conjunction, and it makes a complex sentence. With the independent clause, you will get wet. So those are complex sentences. That is all.